So we are understanding the concept of definition deferred. Let's say we have this class C1 definition. Class C1 definition. Class C1 definition. We have the public section. O2 type ref to C2. O2 type ref to C2. So in this like O2 type ref to C2, we have this as O2 is object type ref to C2. Now in this C2 is not defined at all here. See, basically, what is the assumption? If you are creating an object of type ref to some other class, that class needs to be defined before itself. But if we define it after this, it will throw an error. So if you see here, class C2, we are making use of, we are defining something like O2, which is an object, which is of type ref to C2. But where are we declaring it? In the C1. But where is the C2 definition? In the 10th line. But 7th line itself, we are making use of that. So that should not happen. Okay, in the 7th line you cannot use whatever we have defined, we have used in the 10th. So in this 10th line, whatever the C2 definition is there, that needs to be above this C1 definition, then it will not throw error. So this kind of scenarios will come up in the coming projects, in which we might have to define it somewhere down, but you might have to make use of it before itself. So for that, if you see this, it throws an error. It says obj02 is not an object reference. Okay, what is obj02 is not an object reference, which O2 is something which is in the C1. Okay, so it's giving this straight object obj1 O2. So this is not been recognized. Why it's not recognized? Because we have to write here the definition deferred. Class C2 definition deferred. Now it will not throw any error because it is recognizing O2 now. Because O2 is of type ref to C2. So C2, what we are saying is definition is deferred. Definition is deferred means I am not defining now, but I will define it down the line in the program. That is what is the meaning of definition deferred. So once it's been done, we can activate this and we can execute it. That's it. Now we can write some logic here, and then we can go ahead with that logic. Okay. The first one is like we'll go ahead and understand some concepts here. That's about the constructors. Then we have this inheritance and making use of the interfaces and friendship class events. So we'll be discussing about these things and just an overview of it. So basically, we all know what is a method, and we can also understand about the different types of methods. We have static methods and we have the instance method. So instance method is something which we are using right now, and static method is something which we'll be using in a program in one particular program later. So constructor, what exactly is a constructor is? Constructor is something which will be called even before you call it. Even before you call it, it will be automatically by default be called. Okay, so that's about the constructor. So I will just give you an example of a constructor. Constructor is a default method that will be called. So let's understand about the constructor. Constructor is one type of method. Constructor is a one type of method which will be default called when you create a program. Let's see one example here. So let's say we have class C1 definition and class. So we have this methods M1, methods M1 and comma constructor. Constructor is a keyword. That is right. Right. So we'll go for class C1 implementation end class. And here we'll go for method M1 and method. I'll simply say write I am method C1 method constructor and method. So we have write I am constructor in C1. Okay. So I'm constructor in C1. Now here we'll go for data O1 type ref to C1 startup selection create object O1 create object O1. So data O1 type ref to C1 startup selection create object O1. Now here we'll go ahead with the uh, call method O1 O1 that is O1 M1. Now we are not calling the constructor. We don't have a mechanism of calling a constructor. When you write this create object O1, by default, this whatever is there in the constructor method will be automatically being called. So now we have not called the constructor if you see in the program, but when you say create object, automatically if the constructor is there, it will be printed here. It will be executed. Actually, it will be executed. So what is there in that constructor method? I am constructor in C1. That will be typed first, and then after this it will go to the call method O1 M1. So this M1 whatever we written will be executed later. So this is what we have. This is what we have. So let us go ahead with okay, public section. Public section. So I am constructor in C1 is called first. So there can be only one constructor in entire program, which can be called only once, and the spelling also is should be exactly the same. It cannot be something else. So even if you write one letters different, it will be considered some normal method, not a constructor method. So for the constructor method, we have tried the implementation also, but you cannot call it by default. It gets triggered. So if there is something which you would like to trigger by default, then you have to write it in the constructor event. This is very important. Okay, so this is very important, that we need to remember. And there can be also static methods, static constructor. So static, if you want to declare any static methods, static attributes, and all these things, we have to write like this. So let us say we have to declare a static method, class methods. We should write class methods m2. So this class method, whatever you declare, is a static method. Static methods can be called only from the class directly. You cannot call it from the method. So you cannot call it from the object. See what we are doing here. We are writing call method o1 m1, right? You cannot write like that for, you cannot say call method o1 m2. You cannot do that because it is static method. If you see the static method, so first of all, let us have this let us have the logic for that method m2 end method. Now in this, like, we'll have write I am m2 from c1. So I'm m2 from c1. So if you see this, and this m2, if you, so we have written the in the implementation for that, no syntax error, but it will throw an error because we cannot call this from, uh, we have to call it statically. Oh, it's not throwing an error. In the old version, it used to throw error because we have mentioned it as a static method. So the static method can be called like this also. This used to be having an error. So call method o1, not o1, c1 m2. So if you have this double line, it means that this left side what you have is a class. Please remember that. Okay. If you have a double line here, it means C1 is a class. C1 is a class, not an object. C1 is a class, not an object. So this M2 is actually the method. So I'm M2 from C1 is been called. Now you can, I'm M2 from C1. Now you cannot call like this for the instance method. Instance call method C1 M1. Okay. Now let's see if it accepts it. It's consider a string. So it throws an error. It says call method can only be specified for static methods. So it will not allow us to go ahead with this. But in the latest version, it is allowing us to go ahead with calling the static method by instance way. But instance method by static way we cannot call. So that's what we have it here. We need to understand that. So why we'll be using instant static methods and where we'll be using instance methods, we'll come back to that concept. But this is how it is. Okay, this is how it should be. So have this classic static method, and in the static method, okay. Again, one more thing is we can also have a static constructor. We can also have a static constructor. So we had write class constructor. Class underscore constructor. So we can also have, so there can be only one constructor in one class, but there can also be a classics. There can also be a static constructor. So if you see here, static constructor is the first one that gets triggered. Even though you have mentioned the static constructor later, okay, static constructor, you have tried it as class underscore constructor. Even though you have declared it later, in the program, that will be the one which will be triggered first. That will be the one which will be triggering first. So if you see here, am static constructor will come first, then am constructor in C1 will come, then am M1 from C1 will come, and am M2 from C1 will come. So this is what we have. So to call, and neither you will call the instance constructor nor you will call the classic constructor. You cannot call them into the program. You just have to define you just have to define a create object O1. You just have to call it like this, create object, and automatically when you say create object, which will be triggered first? This is very important question. What will be triggered first? The static constructor will be triggered first. Then instance constructor will be triggered. After that, this call method, whatever we have. So you cannot call it once again. So class constructor is default, it will be called, and you cannot call it again. But this M1 or M2 you can call any number of times. So I can call again, call method, call method O1 M1. I'm calling it again. You can call any number of times. So I'm method M1 from C1. This is what we have. I'm method M1 from C1. Okay. So this is about the constructor, static constructor. So we are defining the inheritance, right? So in inheritance, we will see how how the class definition can be inherited into the subclass. We'll do that. So we'll go for method, method, method M2 and method M2 and method, and just write I am M2 from C1. I am M2 from C1. This is what we have. And now let's go ahead. Let's go ahead with the class C2. Class C2 definition inheriting from C1 and N plus. N plus. Now here we'll go for data. You can define some B of 5 type C. B of 5 type C. Then go for class C2 implementation and plus we'll go ahead with data B of 5. So we are defining data B of 5. We are not defining A. We are not defining A. And then let us say in this protected section will define data K of 10. So even if I don't define the type, it will be default type this character, right? And then we have this class implementation. In class implementation, we have to have this method, method M2 class C2 definition, right? Class C2 implementation. So method, we didn't define any method, right? M1 and method, right? I am M1 from C2. So M1 is already implemented. So we have this C2 implementation. I'll go for M2. M2 also we have defined it, right? So we cannot define it again. So M3. Okay, so we didn't go ahead with the program, right? So we'll go ahead with we O1 output to C1, O2 output to C2, startup selection, create object O1, create object O2. So this is for the first class and second class. Then what we'll say call method C1 M1 call method not C1 O1 because this instance, right? So it will be O1 and then here we have O1 M2 O2 M1. So even though we have not defined M1 in the class O2, so we have to go ahead with M1. So we have this M1. So we have M1. So we have okay. Let's go ahead with this one O1 O2. Okay, so O1 O2 and here M1 we have not declared in the C1 C2. We have declared in the C1 only, but it will still be called from the the inherited class. So we can also use this one. We can also use this one. So data K is there, right? So in this M3 M3 we can write K is equals to DXC. K is equals to DXC. We can write it like that. And then we can call here, right? Oh, right, you cannot do for slash for K. K can be used only within the class. But we can write this one. We have whatever we declare in the public section A. In the class C2, we declare in the public section B. So we can directly write B. Okay, so let's say we have K is equals to DXC. B, A is equals to DXC public. B is equals to DXC public. Okay, so now here, what we'll do is like now what we can do is we can write here, write O2, right? O2 is that object name that we have. A. You can do this. This will work. Okay, it will work. Then O2 B. This will also work. Why is it so? Because these two are declared in the public. Okay, no syntactical error will come. Okay, it will be activated. It will execute it and see also. So execute. So you'll have this. Okay, everything is coming around. Here also slash. I'm M1 from C1. I'm M2 from C1. I'm M1 from C1. So I'm M1 from C1 is coming from the class C2. Okay, class C2. It is being called from the class C2. If you see here, we call it from the class C2. That is O2. O2 is referring to the class C2, right? So now O2A and O2B. Okay, since it's defined in the class within the class, it's not getting updated. So we have to update it in the program. Because if you would have passed it as an import parameter, export parameter, it will come out of the program. But since it is not like that, it is not coming out of the program. So we have this. So we'll understand the concept of interface with a simple example. Let's say we have interfaces. I1 is an interface. I1 interface. Okay, so we have this interface. We'll go for N interface. In this, I'll declare something like methods one and two. So these are the methods that we are declaring in the interface. Now here, class C1 definition and class. So this interfaces I1 this will write in the public section. Interfaces I1 methods M. Now here we are making use of this interface means this M1 M2 also we need to do the implementation in the class definition. So class implementation. So we'll go ahead with class C1 implementation and class. So we have method M1 and method write I am M1 from C1 method M2 and method write I am M2 from C2. Now we have to also implement. See, we have something like M2 here. M1 is not there. So here, how do we declare this in the method is like this. I1 tilde M1. Now, since we have M1 and M2 declared in the interface, for both the methods which we have in the interface, we need to have the methods here. We need to have the methods implementation. In the methods implementation, we should have both. Otherwise, it will throw an error. Let me show you this. It says for M2 is missing. So for M2, we need to have an implementation here. So again, we'll go for methods I1 tilde M2 and method. Let's go for right. I am M2 from I1 and M2. Sorry, method. Okay, this is right. Now here we'll go ahead with the data. So we'll go with data. O1 type ref to C1 startup selection. Startup selection O1 create object O1 create object O1. So create object O1. Then what we have call method C1 call method C1 M1 call method C1 not C1 O1 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 M2. So I1 till M. I1 till M1 is what we need to mention. So I am M1 from C1, I am M2 from C2. I am M1 from C1, I am M2 from C2 is what we get. So I am M2 from I1. Okay, I am I1. I am M1 from I1. So we'll declare here, we'll declare events, events, E1. We declare events E1. Now, For event to trigger event, we need to have a raising method. We need to have a method to raise it. We need to have a method to raise it. So for event is like a change in position. So if you click something, something has to happen. So this event has to be triggered somewhere, just like you had push button and all this. So here also we'll have an event which will trigger. So for this again we'll have to have a method, a method that there should be a compulsory. There should be a method. Say something like M2. M1 is a normal method. M2 for event E1 of C1. So you can mention the class. Let's say you can also maintain a method for an event which is there in another class. So we'll do that one as well. So we are doing a class. We are doing an event for class C1. Then we'll go ahead with the class implementation, right? So we have to write the implementation for M1 and M2 normal. So method M1 and method, right? I am normal method M1, method M2, not M2, and method, right? I am event handler method. I'm normal method. We'll raise even. We'll raise even only. So, so I'm event handler method. This is what we are writing. Okay. So we have am event handler method. Now we'll go for right here raise event event. So you don't have to actually call the M2 because M2 by default will be called by the event. So event is been called in the method M1. Okay, it will take some time to understand. So let's go. So then once we have this, then we go for data O1 type ref to C1 startup selection, create object O1, set handler. Now this is important to raise the event. If you want to raise an event, you have to write the set handler O1, set handler O1 M1 for OREF. Okay, this is for OREF. What is OREF? Is like okay. So we'll have this as O1. Okay. So I'll go for another one O1. So we have this set handler. We'll have set handler O1 M1 for O1. Then we'll write this is mandatory. Okay. So now I'll go for call method M1. Now what will happen when I say call method M1 is this will be called. So when I say call method M1, it will call this. Call method, sorry, call method O1 M1. And this is a set handler for M2, right? So M2 for okay, okay, public section. And normal method M1 will raise even. Event handler method. So what is happening is normal method will raise even will come first. So even if I declare it later, this one, even if I declare it later, it will still have the same. Normal method M1 will raise even. Event handler method. This is what we are getting. So if I execute event handler method and normal method will raise even. So you just understand this. It's a simple concept wherein we are trying to raise an event. We're trying to raise an event. So these are the few important concepts in the classes. So you go through this programs that I have sent you, and each one of them will have this concept. So just try to execute the simple ones first, wherein we understand the basic concept. Then we can go for the complicated ones later.